Ever wonder why certain movies just vanish into the void? We're not talking box office bombs that deserved it. We're talking brilliant, twisted masterpieces that execs would laugh out of the pitch meeting today, films that broke rules we didn't even know existed. Grab your popcorn, weirdos. We're diving into the cult classics that modern Hollywood would rather pretend never happened. Videodrome, 1983. David Cronenberg didn't just make body horror, he invented a whole new nervous system for it with Videodrome. James Woods plays a sleazy TV exec who discovers a broadcast signal that causes hallucinations, tumors, and eventually transforms viewers into weapons of the new flesh. The film features a breathing, pulsating television that might be the most disturbing appliance in cinema history. Critics called it repulsive, while simultaneously praising its visionary approach. Universal Studios had no idea what to do with it, burying the marketing and watching it tank at theaters. But on VHS, this mind-melting nightmare found its audience. The practical effects still hold up. A stomach slot that accepts videotapes, flesh guns fused to hands. Hollywood would rather throw money at CGI monsters today than craft something this viscerally disturbing. Cronenberg himself admitted they'd never fund something this philosophically dense and visually transgressive now. Long live the new flesh, indeed. Society, 1989. Imagine if your suspicion that rich people were different from the rest of us turned out to be horrifyingly literal. That's Society, Brian Yuzna's scathing class warfare satire where Beverly Hills elites aren't just feeding off the poor metaphorically, they're doing it in a squirming, body-melting orgy called The Shunting. The film sat on shelves for years in America while playing in Europe, with studio execs terrified of its political implications. When it finally hit VHS, the practical effects by Screaming Mad George became legendary, bodies turning inside out, heads emerging from rear ends, aristocrats becoming a literal amorphous blob consuming the lower classes. Critics initially dismissed it as exploitation trash, before later recognizing its brilliant commentary on Reagan-era excess. The final 20 minutes feature the most astonishing practical effects meltdown ever committed to film, something that would be sanitized with CGI today, robbing it of the sticky, sweaty, nightmarish quality that makes Society so unforgettable. As the film's tagline warned us, the rich have always fed off the poor. They just never did it so literally. Possession, 1981. Polish director Andrzej Żuławski made this while going through a devastating divorce, and it shows. Possession stars Isabelle Adjani and Sam Neill as a couple whose marriage isn't just falling apart. It's mutating into something monstrous. Banned in multiple countries and butchered for U.S. release, the uncut version reveals one of cinema's most unhinged performances as Adjani convulses in a subway tunnel in a scene that has to be seen to be believed. The film defies categorization, part domestic drama, part Cold War thriller, part creature feature with practical effects from the creator who would later design E.T. Critics were baffled, audiences were horrified, and Adjani won Best Actress at Cannes while reportedly having a breakdown during filming. The movie features a slimy, tentacled creature that's both sexual metaphor and literal monster, a duality no focus group would permit today. Cinematically, it's like watching someone's nervous breakdown captured on film with long, unbroken takes of pure emotional carnage no modern actor would risk performing. The film gained cult status precisely because it's so uncomfortable, so personal, and so completely unconcerned with audience comfort. Phantom of the Paradise, 1974. Before Rocky Horror, there was Brian De Palma's rock opera freakout that bombed everywhere except Winnipeg, Canada, where it played for months and spawned a fan community that still holds conventions today. It's Phantom of the Opera meets Faust with a glam rock soundtrack and a villain whose record label is literally called Death Records. The film stars composer Paul Williams, who stands about 5'2", as the diabolical music producer Swan, delivering one of cinema's most underrated villain performances. Critics dismissed it as schizophrenic, while audiences stayed away in droves, except in that one Canadian city that embraced it like a religion. The movie features absolutely blistering commentary on the music industry, with William Finley as the disfigured composer who sells his soul only to have his music stolen and commercialized. Every frame is packed with De Palma's split-screen madness, Dutch angles, and Giallo-inspired color schemes. Today's liability-conscious studios would panic over its blend of intellectual properties, its cynical take on the music industry, and its bizarre tone shifts from camp to genuine horror. It's the cinematic equivalent of a concept album, ambitious, messy, and absolutely glorious in its excesses. Miracle Mile, 1988. Picture this. Anthony Edwards finally gets the girl's number, but when he answers a wrong number at a payphone, he learns nuclear war has begun and Los Angeles will be hit in 70 minutes. Real-time panic ensues in this apocalyptic romance that studios fought over, then buried when they realized it wasn't an action film, but an existential nightmare. The Tangerine Dream soundtrack pulses beneath this fever dream that takes place entirely at night, giving Los Angeles an eerie, doomed glow. Critics praised its technical achievements, while audiences largely missed it due to non-existent marketing. Director Steve DeJarnette fought for years to keep the bleak ending intact, eventually buying back his own script to ensure his vision wasn't compromised. The film's tone whiplashes from romantic comedy to increasingly desperate survival tale as the minutes tick by, creating a wholly unique tension no algorithm would approve today. Most remarkably, it never confirms whether the threat is real until the devastating finale, an ambiguity that would be focus-grouped out of existence in modern cinema. In an era before cell phones, this time capsule thriller captures urban isolation and nuclear paranoia in ways that feel both dated and eternally relevant. Delicatessen, 1991. Jean-Pierre Jeunet and Marc Caro's post-apocalyptic black comedy about a French apartment building where the butcher landlord serves up new tenants as food would never make it past a pitch meeting today. Set in a sepia-toned retro future where food is so scarce that lentils are used as currency, the film balances whimsy and horror with a precision modern studios would find unmarketable. The film's opening sequence, a meticulously choreographed series of sounds building to a murder, announced Jeunet as a directorial force years before Amélie. Critics adored its uniquely French sensibility, while audiences required word of mouth to discover this bizarre gem. The production design creates a hermetically sealed world of odd contraptions, brass pipes, and faded grandeur, using practical effects and sets that give the film its timeless quality. One unforgettable scene features an entire building's occupants rhythmically bouncing on creaking beds in unison as a man makes love to his girlfriend on a squeaky mattress, creating a symphony of coordinated movement that's both hilarious and strangely beautiful. Today's risk-averse Hollywood would demand clearer genre boundaries, more likable characters, and less culinary cannibalism, robbing us of this perfectly calibrated tragicomedy. Brain Damage, 1988. Frank Henenlotter's hallucinogenic masterpiece about a man addicted to the euphoric fluid secreted by a parasitic creature attached to his brain isn't just gross-out horror. It's one of cinema's most effective addiction metaphors. The creature, Aylmer, speaks in a charming, aristocratic voice while forcing his host to bring him fresh brains to eat in exchange for his next fix. The film was savagely cut for release, with its most notorious scene, involving a woman in a nightclub bathroom meeting a grisly, intimate end, almost completely removed. Critics mostly ignored it, while horror fans celebrated Henenlotter's blend of genuinely disturbing imagery and pitch-black comedy. The practical effects, including Aylmer himself, a phallic, almost cute blue creature with razor teeth, create a tactile quality CGI could never replicate. What makes it unreproducible today isn't just the graphic content, but its unflinching, non-judgmental portrayal of addiction, complete with withdrawal sequences so visceral you can practically feel the cold sweats. The film works simultaneously as exploitation trash and profound commentary, a balance modern studios can't comprehend, preferring either elevated horror or mindless gore rather than this challenging middle ground. Sangre, 1989. Alejandro Jodorowsky's psychedelic circus nightmare about a boy who becomes his armless mother's arms to carry out revenge killings represents everything modern filmmaking has lost: the willingness to be genuinely disorienting. The film dives into religious imagery, Freudian horror, and surrealist set pieces that defy easy categorization or explanation. Critics hailed it as a masterpiece, while mainstream audiences largely missed one of cinema's most visually stunning explorations of trauma. The film features an elephant funeral procession where the animal's bloody carcass is dropped into a ravine filled with hungry locals, a scene requiring hundreds of extras and practical logistics no insurance company would approve today. Jodorowsky's background in avant-garde theater informs every frame, creating tableaus that burn into your retinas, a swimming pool filled with red water, a deaf-mute girl covered in honey and surrounded by bees, a cult that worships an armless saint whose blood they believe heals. Modern studios, obsessed with clear three-act structures and instantly identifiable genres, would demand Jodorowsky explain his symbolism and tone down the religious imagery, requests that would destroy everything magnetic about his uncompromising vision. Bad taste. 1987. Before Lord of the Rings, Peter Jackson made this splatter comedy in his native New Zealand on weekends over 4 years, with friends serving as cast and crew. The plot is simple. Aliens invade a small town to harvest humans for their intergalactic fast food chain. The execution is anything but, with Jackson himself playing multiple roles, including a character whose brains fall out and he has to keep shoving them back in. The film's $25,000 budget created limitations that spawned incredible creativity, including practical effects that still impress despite their obvious handmade quality. Critics were divided between disgust and admiration for its audacity, while midnight movie audiences elevated it to cult status. One unforgettable scene features an alien vomiting into a bowl, another alien consuming the vomit, then regurgitating it for the first alien to drink, all shot with unblinking commitment that would give today's health and safety coordinators heart attacks. Jackson built his own camera rigs, created all the makeup effects in his mother's oven, and performed his own dangerously absurd stunts, a level of DIY filmmaking that's nearly extinct in an era of insurance requirements and studio oversight. The raw, anarchic energy of Bad Taste represents cinema at its most punk rock, something corporate filmmaking has systematically eliminated. The Adventures of Buckaroo Banzai, Across the Eighth Dimension, 1984. U.D. Richter's sci-fi comedy fever dream follows a neurosurgeon, test pilot, rock star, and his band, the Hong Kong Cavaliers, as they battle interdimensional aliens. The film never explains its dense mythology, drops viewers into its universe without exposition, and features a cast of character actors all operating at different energy levels, choices that would terrify today's franchise-obsessed executives. Peter Weller plays the title character with deadpan seriousness, while John Lithgow devours scenery as an alien-possessed scientist, creating a tonal whiplash that somehow works perfectly. Critics were baffled, audiences stayed away, but the film found its people through cable TV and home video. The movie's most iconic line, "No matter where you go, there you are," became a pre-internet meme, while its end credit sequence of the entire cast walking purposefully down a dry aqueduct has been endlessly imitated. What makes it impossible today isn't the content, but the structure. The film behaves as if it's a sequel to a movie that doesn't exist, referring to past adventures we never saw and assuming viewers will catch up. Modern studios, terrified of losing even one confused viewer, would demand extensive reshoots explaining everything, destroying the very mystery that makes Buckaroo Banzai so enduringly fascinating. Meet the Feebles, 1989. Peter Jackson strikes again with this demented puppet show that makes the Muppets look like Sesame Street. The film follows the backstage drama of a variety show cast of puppets dealing with drug addiction, STDs, machine gun rampages, and Vietnam flashbacks. It's like someone dared Jackson to make the most offensive puppet movie possible, and he replied, "Hold my beer." The film was made for approximately $750,000, with Jackson and team creating elaborate puppets that perform acts no modern studio would touch with a 10-foot pole. Critics were largely repulsed, while audiences who found it were divided between disgust and cultish admiration. One particularly memorable scene features a walrus puppet director coercing a bunny into compromising acts, a sequence that plays very differently in today's cultural climate. The practical puppetry is genuinely impressive, requiring complex mechanisms and multiple puppeteers working in cramped spaces to bring these depraved characters to life. Today's risk management teams would shut down production after reading page 1, depriving us of what remains one of cinema's most audacious middle fingers to good taste. The film represents a time when filmmakers could create genuinely transgressive content without immediate cancellation, a freedom increasingly rare in modern filmmaking. Zardas, 1974. John Boorman followed his Oscar-nominated Deliverance with this incomprehensible sci-fi epic starring Sean Connery in a red diaper, bandoliers, and thigh-high boots as a primitive warrior who stows away inside a flying stone head called Zardas that vomits guns and pronounces, "The penis is evil." If that sentence confuses you, wait until you see the movie. The film was actually produced by a major studio, 20th Century Fox, in an era when executives took chances on auteur visions, even baffling ones. Critics were merciless, with Roger Ebert famously writing that Boorman has made his first truly terrible film. Audiences largely stayed away, but the film developed a cult following among psychedelic enthusiasts and bad movie connoisseurs. The production design features striking brutalist architecture contrasted with pastoral settings, creating a visual language that's both dated and timeless. What makes Zardas unmakeable today isn't just its bizarreness, but its complete narrative confidence, despite making almost no sense. Boorman directs as if the audience understands exactly what's happening, even as the plot involves telepathic immortals, consciousness swapping, and evolutionary philosophy. Modern studios would demand clarity, consistent logic, and probably more clothing for Connery, destroying the very enigmatic quality that makes Zardas so hypnotically fascinating. Freaked, 1993. Former MTV VJs Alex Winter and Tom Stern directed this manic, day-glow monster comedy where Keanu Reeves plays a dogman hybrid and is unrecognizable under prosthetics. The plot follows a vain celebrity who gets transformed into a mutant freak by Randy Quaid's demented sideshow proprietor, joining other bizarre attractions including a man with a sock puppet for a head. 20th Century Fox initially funded it as a low-budget experiment, then buried it after executive changes, releasing it in only 2 theaters despite featuring stars like Mr. T, Brooke Shields, and even a heavily disguised Reeves. Critics who actually saw it praised its anarchic energy and impressive practical effects by makeup legend Screaming Mad George. The film features over 200 makeup effects created without CGI, including a memorable sequence where Winter's character grows an extra arm out of his chest that punches him repeatedly in the face. The hyperkinetic editing, cartoon sound effects, and fourth wall breaking create a cinematic language somewhere between live-action comic book and fever dream. Today's algorithm-driven studios would never greenlight something so deliberately weird and unmarketable, lacking as it does any clear demographic target beyond people who enjoy bizarre things, a category streaming services haven't yet figured out how to quantify. Liquid Sky, 1982. Slava Zuckerman's neon-drenched new wave alien invasion movie follows invisible extraterrestrials who feed on the endorphins released during pleasure, causing people to disintegrate during intimate moments. Set in New York's early 80s club scene, the film stars Anne Carlisle in dual roles as both a female model and her male nemesis, frequently in scenes together through clever editing. Made for just $500,000, the film grossed over $1.7 million as an independent release, massive numbers for the era. Critics were divided but fascinated by its unique visual style and thumping synthesizer soundtrack composed by the director himself. The film's fashion, featuring sculptural makeup, geometric hairstyles, and androgynous styling, influenced music videos for years afterward. What makes it unmakeable today isn't just its content, but its deliberately alienating approach. The film makes no concessions to audience comfort, featuring performances that feel deliberately artificial, pacing that's hypnotically slow at times, and German expressionist-inspired lighting that transforms New York into an alien landscape. Modern financiers would demand more accessible performances, faster pacing, and clearer narrative signposts, exactly the compromises that would destroy this genuinely extraterrestrial viewing experience. Survive Style, 5 + 2004. This Japanese kaleidoscope of interconnected stories features a man who repeatedly kills his wife only to have her resurrect and attack him again, an advertising executive cursed to speak only in marketing slogans, a hypnotist who convinces a man he's a bird, and inexplicably, Vinnie Jones as an English hitman repeatedly asking people, "What is your function in life?" It's like 5 films having a collision, and somehow it works. Director Gen Sekiguchi came from advertising, bringing a visual flair that makes every frame look like the world's most stylish commercial. Supersaturated colors, impossible camera movements, and production design that defines maximalism. Critics who discovered it at festivals were dazzled, while most Western audiences never got the chance to see it, as it received minimal distribution outside Japan. The film features a house with different room styles that would make Wes Anderson jealous, including one memorable space with grass floors, floral wallpaper, and live butterflies fluttering around. What makes it unmakeable today isn't content, but structure. The film deliberately withholds the connections between its stories until late in the running time, requiring patience. Modern studios don't believe audiences possess. Its refusal to explain itself, its wild tonal shifts, and its deliberately artificial aesthetic would send focus groups into confusion spirals. Yet these are precisely the elements that make it so unforgettable. So, which of these twisted masterpieces caught your eye? Drop a comment with the one you're hunting down tonight, or tell us what criminally overlooked cult classic we missed. The real question is, has modern filmmaking lost something essential by trying to please everyone? Are we trading unforgettable visions for forgettable products? Let me know your thoughts, and hit subscribe for more cinematic deep dives into the weird and wonderful. Keep it strange, Vault Dwellers.